With just under 48 hours to go until Nigeria's general elections, the campaign season has officially come to a close. After months of intense political activity and spirited debate as well as name-callings, Nigerians are now preparing to head to the polls to cast their votes and elect their leaders at the federal, state and local levels on February 25 and March 11th. The stakes are high as Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and plays a critical role in regional and global affairs. The campaign season has been marked by intense competition between candidates and parties, with issues ranging from economic development, security, corruption, and governance taking center stage. As the countdown to the election begins in earnest, all eyes are on Nigeria to see how the process will unfold and what the outcome will be. The next few days will be a crucial moment in Nigeria's electoral history, and the results of the election will have significant implications for the country's future direction and stability. My name is Keminni Amanor, and you're welcome to The Square. Joining our gathering today are Adetunji Omotola. He is a global African thought leader. He's joining us from Johannesburg-South, Africa. We also have Charles Thomas. Charles is a political analyst based in Abia State here in Nigeria. Gentlemen, you're welcome to The Square.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. I'll start off with you, Ade. What would you say your view of the electoral process up until now is?
Thank you very much. Look, from where we are sitting, I am based in Diaspora. In fact, I've just returned from Nigeria, where I chose to come and get my PVC, the Permanent Voters Card. And I arrived there on February 5th, which was a Sunday, at Oshodi Solo local government. And after 3 hours in the sun, baking like a cake, they told me that my PVC was not found. And they then went on to tell us that we should expect an SMS thereafter. But of course, my own SIM card, which I got last year when I came to do the registration, the same Oshodi local government, had been lost. So my sense is one of frustration, especially because we in Diaspora are not allowed to vote. You can only vote if you're domiciled in Nigeria. And despite the over $30 billion a year in remittances, Nigerians in Diaspora, millions of us are still marginalized. But of course, there are some good things that we see in this election. We've seen some changes to the Electoral Act. We also believe that given that over 93 million Nigerians now have their PVC, with an increase of about 9 million from the previous election in 2019, I believe that democracy seems to be becoming more embedded in Nigeria. And we're quite excited that it seems to be a three-horse race between Atiku, Tinubu, and Obi, because typically what we used to have were two front runners, and then the rest will be getting about 100,000 votes or 30,000 votes. So,
indeed. So my understanding, Ade, is the fact that you came to Nigeria specifically to get your PVC and hopefully vote. But because you didn't get it, you have returned to South Africa.
Yes, I had to. Look, I wanted to stay, but there was also another elephant in the room. In fact, two elephants in the room. So there was no cash. As a result of the Naira redesign, there was absolutely no cash anyway. In fact, one had to use Naira to buy Naira. And also there was a massive shortage of fuel. So I had to ask myself, what would I be doing in a country where one cannot even withdraw their own money? It would have been a total disaster for me. So I returned back to base. In fact, I'm in Cape Town now. I'm not even in Johannesburg. I had to come here for an assignment. It's a 3-day assignment that will end on Saturday.
Well, we'll delve more into the diaspora's perspective of the elections, but I'll come to Charles now. Charles, a lot has gone on in here in Nigeria in the lead up to the elections. what are your views of how things have panned out so far?
Well, for me, I think the Independent Electoral Commission, the INEC, they have so far reawakened the consciousness and the zeal for Nigerians to go all out and vote. You know, we must give credit to INEC for what they have done so far. We've not seen it like this before, especially the introduction of the BVAS, the constant information and reorientations of Nigerians, and the readiness and the reassurance that they're going to give us a free, credible election come on Saturday. You know, that alone for me gives me the reassurance that the new Nigeria is possible and in view. But then I must say big sorry to Ade for the experience you had with your PVC. Man, it's not been easy. Many persons also suffered the same thing here. Many kept going to, INEC offices to get their PVCs. They couldn't get their PVCs. And then it's so annoying. You want to vote, but then the PVCs are not available. Especially those of them that did a transfer from one state to another state, from one polling unit to another polling unit. And those of them also registered newly. There was a lot of issues here. People couldn't find a PVC. But then when you go to the INEC office, you see lots of those PVCs uncollected. And we keep telling people, go pick your PVCs. But then those that have gone to pick their PVCs, just a handful of them were able to get their PVCs. But then the PVCs are not what you're talking about now. The election is less than 48 hours. And then, like you said, rightly said that tensions are high.
Well, I think we lost Charles there, and we'll move on to Ade now. When Charles comes back, he will finish his point. But Ade, let's talk about the diaspora. And Charles, are you back?
An issue for us.
I see. Well, we're just moving on to Ade. I'll come back to you on these INEC issues. But Charles, for those of you in the diaspora, how significant is the 2023 elections to you?
Well, look, I say that, the first elections in Nigeria were held 100 years ago in 1923. And if you recall, the first Nigerian political party was set up in 1922. So for 100 years now, Nigerians have been voting. I think the reason why this election is far more important for diaspora is because despite the fact that we've had a democracy for the last 24 years, there really still hasn't, the dividends of democracy has not been felt by many Nigerians. And people in diaspora feel that because the last 8 years has been even more painful, that this election should produce a candidate that will be, in fact, what people say is that out of the three candidates, none of them could perform as worse as the incumbent on many levels. What do you want to talk about? Is it that you don't respect court orders, or the banning of Twitter, or all sorts of hardship in the country? We've had a president who's not very sensitive, hardly talks to the citizenry, and oftentimes he junkets out of the country for summit after summit. If he's not in a summit, then he's in hospital waiting to receive injections in London. So in my view, the diaspora believe that the change that we're really looking for will be brought about by any of these three gentlemen. But what is also very important is that this election is where you have the PVC, where the opportunity to rig has been watered down very, very significantly. So there are, in fact, checks and balances now in this election that we did not have in 2019. And of course, the president has also said many times that he would not tolerate politicians who want to truncate the process by bringing in thugs, so on. In fact, some people argue that the whole Naira squeeze or cash squeeze or the redesign is to forestall any hopes by any politician, no matter how rich or powerful, to buy the votes of Nigerians. So we are very proud of some of these changes, and we are determined also to speak about what is going on in Nigeria, because what tends to happen is that 99% of Nigerians who speak about politics in Nigeria are those who are in Nigeria, and we want that to change going forward.
Very well. Charles, INEC has made a lot of changes, technological changes, that is. But we know that as we are winding down to the DDay, its website has even had challenges. Now, my question to you is, how do you think problems such as website shutdown, obviously because of the traffic, could mar things on the DDay?
If a website is down, they're supposed to collect results and transmit it to collation centers from the polling unit. Things like network issue. For instance, I've moved down to my village where I'm supposed to vote, and that's the reason why you could see the network breaks and then comes back again because of a poor network from here. But then there's a part of things that the system have not adequately provided for, where network is no longer an issue in a nation like ours. I think INEC has something in their box. I don't want to preempt anything. I want to be very optimistic and also want to encourage Nigerians to remain optimistic too. Be very hopeful that they have everything all planned out. Let's see how it's going to pan out on Saturday. Probably by Friday, tomorrow, everything is going to be on their toes, because I believe that they would have thought out, what if you have a poor network? What if I have a poor transmission? What if this thing happens? What if our systems are hacked into? Because for the first time, the beavers will be used on a national scale. It has not been used on a national scale before. Just few states that will use the beavers, yet we still have some stories coming out from those states. For instance, a state like Osun State, we still have a story coming out there over voting and the rest of them. But then we are being very optimistic that INEC has everything in place, and then by Friday night, like Saturday morning, that things are going to get very different. We won't have any hitches. We're all going to go out and vote without any issue at all, network-wise.
And indeed, that's the assurance that INEC has given. But I'll come back to you, Ade. What ideas do you have? I mean, for future, electoral process that could help people in the diaspora who could be coming back home to take part in the electoral process like you tried to do this time. What do you think INEC could do differently in the future?
Look, I think a process of segmentation will make a lot of difference, that you separate those who are coming in from those who are on the ground, because it is a shame and an embarrassment to come in and pick up your PVC. I mean, to queue up for registration was a nightmare. I mean, the queue practically was not moving. People were jumping the queue, as Nigerians tend to do. They don't like to queue up. And so if diasporans are treated not differently, but it's segmented so that we don't have to go through the same process as those who are local. Because what they said to me last year when I went there in February was I should come back in August to come and fetch my PVC. But of course, I can't just travel to Nigeria, 6,000 miles from Johannesburg, just to pick up a PVC alone. So it's not practical. So I think that needs to happen. But also, I see no reason why Rwanda, South Africa, and Kenya, and even people from Cote d'Ivoire, former Ivory Coast, can vote from diaspora, and we can vote. I mean, with the BVN, we were able to do it from the embassies here. And even with regards to the NIN, there were companies that were able to do the NIN, National Identity Number. So what is the problem? And most of the reasons they give is that, well, we're still battling with Nigeria. It's a huge exercise, and also the cost implications. But I think there's no political will, because at the Senate, only, 92 senators said no to diaspora voting, and 29 said yes. So I believe each diaspora needs to lobby their members of Senate and House of Representatives. I don't think we've done that. What people tend to do is to lobby, the body as a whole, or go to court, and that hasn't worked in the last 15 to 20 years. So we need to also change our manner and approach to pursuing our leaders in the National Assembly and also at the local assembly.
I see. And before we talk about top of mind issues for the diaspora, Ade, talk to us about how these political parties have engaged with the diaspora.
Look, I don't think that they've made it a central theme of, I suspect because we can't vote, they haven't really, apart from Peter Obi, I haven't seen any of this front-running candidates whether it's Alhaji Abubakar Atiku or Kwankwaso, Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso, or even Ashiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. I mean, we've seen them pop up at Chatham House, but Chatham House is only one address, and that was only one incident. They've not really
I see, but that could be a defense for them. I mean, going to Chatham House, they could say they address the rest of diaspora.
Well, Chatham House is one address in the UK. Nigerians are scattered all over the world. Nigerians live in Dubai, they live in South Africa. If you were in South Africa, as I am, you will probably not even be able to watch what's going on in the UK in Chatham House, because you've got to be able to have access to cable in the UK. But having said that, I don't think that any of the candidates have really shown a lot of interest in Nigerians beyond Nigeria. In fact, on the foreign policy area, they have not really looked at it very critically. And we hope that in the next 4 years, whoever becomes president, since diaspora is under the presidency, that's where Abike Dabiri operates out of, under the presidency. We're going to be putting a lot more pressure on whoever becomes president. We're no longer going to be silent and just be linked to just diaspora remittances. We also want to be part of the leadership of our country.
I like how you put it. It won't just be taking your money. It should be much more than that. But I come to Charles now. Charles, talk to us about security. Only today we woke up to news of the senatorial candidate in Enugu State for the Labour Party allegedly assassinated. And then it brings to mind again, given the very tense atmosphere we have now, what is security on DDay likely to look like?
Well, I believe that the security personnel, the Nigerian police force, the team of the security at faith, listened to the meeting that they had last, and then the chief of army staff had words to those who might want on that day to cause chaos. But I have a problem. We have a common enemy as Nigerians. The common enemy are the politicians who have divided us either politically or divided us either religiously or divided us with hunger and pain. We all go through the same things we go through every day. So why would you want also make himself available to be used by the same what I call enemies, our enemy, collective enemy, on that day to obstruct and to cause issues? Just today, right in my state, a particular police unit was attacked. The PRO is yet to determine the level of damage or if there was life loss or not or something. Why these things are happening, it also goes a long way to scare people to come out. It causes voter apathy, because if you're not sure you're going to be safe on the day of election, you won't come out to vote. I think most of these insecurities are politically motivated to scare people and to keep them away, and so they can be able to have their way. But it's not like it used to be before, because like I said before, the BVAS is changing the game. For me, the BVAS is the game changer. There are no incident forms. And to that effect, it means if you are not accredited either by the thumbprint or the facial recognition, it means you're not going to vote at all. So it's not like the days where someone jacks the ballot box and runs down to the bush and sits there and then do all of the voting and all that, and then use incident form to quote one thing from there. So I think Nigerians, parents should also speak to their wards, speak to their children, and let them know that our nation, our dear nation, Nigeria, is at the brink of a total collapse. We should not watch things happen. We should all be alert and contribute our quota to a greater Nigeria. This is the only country we have. We do not have any for now. This is the only one we have for now. And, you know, just like I'm talking to you from the the eastern part of Nigeria, the southeast precisely. Now, there are issues that come up here every election moment, where you hear things like no election boycott and all that. And then we have had a little of that, but then thank God that our people are now awake, unlike before. A place like Abia that had about 3 million registered voters in 2019 had less than 500,000 persons that voted. You could see the number, the figure is not something to write home about at all. Many people chose to play football on the day of election. But then the awareness, the consciousness now, you need to see the excitement. You need to see how people are preparing to hit the pool come Saturday. But then if they're not assured of their security, if they're not sure that they're going to be safe on that day, people can still go back to their houses. People can still, be taken aback because of that. But I believe that the security outfit, the security men, they know what they're doing. I believe that they're on ground, and I believe they're going to do much more to be able to give back that confidence that we need, so we can come out in peace and vote. Because the thing is that no one wants to lose their life because of anybody. Nobody wants to lose their life, these politicians. That's just the point.
I see. I just want you also to address quickly for me the killing of the senatorial candidates. How do you think that will impact the elections in Enugu State?
For me, I think that alone sends fear in the atmosphere. That's just the first thing. And again, my heart goes out to the family, the wife, the kids, and of course those that wanted him to come to represent them. But you see, the attack also is going to also put fear even in the Labour Party, because the Labour Party basically have a stronger force from the southeast and south-south, and these things are not expected to be happening within this strong zone of Mr. Peter Obi. But then it's already happened. But then that very day, I'm thinking people are going to be very, very skeptical to go out. But then people can be reassured of their safety. They could be reassured of their safety over and over again. But look at that happening how many hours to the election? It didn't happen during the moments of the heated times of a campaign and all that. But right now, it's going to affect the election really, because fooling units, people are going to be mourning, people are going to be afraid. Any little movement, a lot of persons are going to take to their heels. I don't know how that's going to pan out for that senatorial district. But
we'll see what steps security operatives will take, just as you've said. But Ade, how concerned is the diaspora about security around the elections?
Well, look, one of the cardinal things that we are concerned about is the security of Nigerians, not just lives, but property. I mean, we've been battling with insecurity in Nigeria in the northeast, the northwest, banditry, and now the unknown gunmen situation in the southeast. In fact, we tried to organize it because I'm the founder of the Guild of Nigerian Professionals in South Africa. And in September last year, I made a trip down to Pretoria to the offices of the Institute of Security Studies to intimate them that we should organize a security conference on Nigeria, and we should get the 3 presidential candidates, at least the front runners. In fact, I told them to get them to come to South Africa. And then later, because of the campaign that started late September, they then were able to talk to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and they got a date in February. But of course, it was difficult to get the 3 contenders, and we found that they were more interested in going to Chatham House than doing stuff on security in Nigeria. So our hope is that we know that it's going to be very difficult to police or secure over 170,000 polling booths. But we believe that with all the security forces in Nigeria, the army, the DSS, the police, the mobile police, and also, if you like, the vigilance of voters, I think it will reduce the incidences of insecurity. But having said that, because the tensions are very high and there's a lot of high unemployment of youths, they could easily be used by politicians who are desperate to foist havoc on the population. So it is important for those in the security forces to do their job and be vigilant, and to rather prevent than be looking to catch people after they've already committed the crimes of murder and arson and all of that. But we're hopeful that these elections will not produce too many casualties.
I see. Charles, Adede has spoken to our security personnel, but then also the supporters of the candidates of the political parties and even voters in general should also behave themselves. What would be your advice to them?
Well, for me, no matter who you are voting for, it is Nigeria first. That's the first thing. It doesn't matter who you're voting, whether you're voting for PDP, APC, or Labour Party, even the NNPP, anyone. You should first of all know that it's about Nigeria first before any other thing, any other person. We should have to put Nigeria first before any other thing happening out there. So we should coordinate ourselves. We have to coordinate ourselves. We've grown past level politics. We've gone past this level of issues happening all the time. We should be able to coordinate ourselves and let go of problems, no matter who is bringing it up, no matter who you are supporting. Don't be a tool in the hand of the politicians. Don't be a tool to destabilize the election. Do not be the reason why mothers are going to be running, fathers are going to be running, people are going to be running on that very day. Guide yourself properly, stand properly. Even when you vote, you want to stay back and watch the vote, please do it in an organized manner. That's something that they said, which is very true. Nigerians don't like to queue up. They just want to stay on the queue. We are always in a hurry. Our blood is always hot. But on Saturday, I want to see a minimal, activities of those kind of things we hear before now, violence and all of that. I want to see the youth lead the way. We are the future leaders that they call us. If we want to become the leaders of today, it has to start with our election process, the way we coordinate ourselves. No one entrusts something serious in the hand of a person who is disorganized, in the hand of an individual who is not coordinated at all. So from this election, it will be a litmus test of our readiness to take over leadership, our readiness to also take it off from here. For me, it's a litmus test.
Very well. When we come back, I want us to touch a bit more on the diaspora, but we'll also look at misinformation and disinformation during the voting period and beyond. Don't go away. Welcome back to The Square. We're still discussing Nigeria's 2023 elections, which is now 48 hours or under away from now. Now, with me is, Adetunji Omotola. He is a global African thought leader, joining us from Cape Town, South Africa. We also have Charles Thomas. He is a political analyst based in Abia State here in Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience. We'll move on with our conversation now, and that brings me to you, Ade. Let's talk about the diaspora. What are the top of mind issues for you?
Look, for us, diaspora issues, first of all, for us who are outside Nigeria, many of our people are really concerned about what is going on in the country, high unemployment, inflation, insecurity, leaders that don't listen. You send them messages, they never respond. You send them emails, they only respond when you praise them. There's a disconnectedness between Nigerians in power and those who are outside the country. It is almost as if we don't exist. And so that is a worry. Then there's also a secondary concern that many of our people who are outside the country are having challenges with regards to their immigration. I know, for example, in South Africa that it's very, very difficult for Nigerians to get their permits. And that is worrying, because if you don't have a permit, you are in the country illegally. And if you're in the country illegally, you can't get a job. So many of our people are really frustrated. They don't know what to do. They can't run away to Nigeria because things are hard. They're hearing about Japa every day. And in South Africa, where they are, they can't enter the system. If I came up with a concept called immigration, economics, and integration, and I said that one must be successful in all three areas. It's not good enough just to have a South African permit and have a good job in South Africa, but are you integrated? And integration doesn't mean you marry a local woman. We're talking about learning the language, understanding the history and the culture of the people who are our hosts. So these are some of the issues, but also we're worried about the quality of leadership that we see. In many senses, you see governors who are going to the Senate as if it's a crash. Some of them have been in the Senate after being governor for 8 years. They go and stay in the Senate for about 12 years or more. We believe that there should be more depth, there should be more women. There's no single woman on the ballot for president this time. It is very shocking that a country that is about 50% women, in fact, the voters this time, the women are almost as many as the men, but you don't see them on the presidential ticket, not even as a vice presidential candidate.
Indeed.
I mean, Peter Obi would have picked a woman as his vice, since he says he's the change candidate,
Indeed.
but he hasn't done so.
Very
so these are some of the issues for us.
Very well, Charles. Let's begin the conversation on misinformation and disinformation. The campaign period has officially come to a close today. But in reviewing, retrospectively looking at how things have gone so far, what role do you think that misinformation and disinformation play? Did it even happen at all? Charles, you're mute. Well, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Many were still passing around social media platforms, specifically like the WhatsApp platform, where they suggested that banks were going to shut down today, tomorrow, and all that. So hitting up the polity and instilling fears in people. People were running to the banks as much as there's no money in the bank. So you could see the long queues from as early hours of 4 a.m., 5 a.m., standing and waiting for the banks to load the money and all that. So for me, I think most of these things are, mischievous and mischief makers. They brought these informations, just to destabilize and to cause fears in the atmosphere. For me, that's what I think. And our people must be able to, verify the information they have even before it goes out there, because some of them are political. A few days ago, we heard about the invasions of EFCC, at residence of Asiwaju Tinubu, and that was false, because the anti-graft agency came to refute that not being true. Our campaign, I expected the campaign to be issue-based, but unfortunately, this is still Nigeria, where anything goes. The electronic law, mandates that, campaign should be issue-based, not tantrums, name callings and all that. But then we saw that from almost all the political parties. The name calling kept going on and on and on and on. And I wasn't really comfortable with it. Many of them were not talking about the issues, the things that Nigerians are going through. Many of them too were not even talking about their manifestos. And that makes me think, did they really go through the manifesto? Because I know many of them did not put that manifesto through together. So these things are not really supposed to be at the moment. If you know what is not true and you're passing that's disinformation. Because you have an ulterior motive, you have an agenda, a hidden agenda why you are doing that. But in terms of misinformation, when you know that something is not real, you didn't know about it and you were spreading the information, when you find out, please go back to the same platform you use and apologize and retrace that and refute that was not supposed to be. Because videos already flying around, within here. I told you that Southeast, there's a way election happens here. There are videos of 2019, if I'm not mistaken, where some persons were seen, thumbprinting outside before the election. So people are still spreading that information, saying that voting has started already, and you guys are here, not knowing what is happening. So that is not good for our polity at all.
Which brings me to the point, and Ade, I hope you can take this one for me. How should the general public handle information they pick up on social media and even from some sections of the press?
Look, it's very difficult to set standards for ordinary people, especially those who do not understand the power of the media and the tendency. In fact, I am on about 20 WhatsApp groups, and what I complain about, and I tell my brothers and sisters, and please try and offer your own thoughts. Write your own thoughts and share it with us. Don't share videos. Don't share people's writings, because most of the time when they do so, they have not checked even with the author whether it's real. So there's a laxity around sharing information, especially with WhatsApp groups. Many people are faceless. They have nicknames, give thanks, all sorts of names I've seen in WhatsApp groups. Most of the admin on these WhatsApp groups don't even have a degree in communications. They don't know how to manage WhatsApp groups. There are no rules. You just find yourself being added to a group. It's very difficult to manage misinformation. I think what is critical at this late stage is that people must just author their own thoughts about this election and stop sharing stuff that they have not authored. That will reduce most of the fake news by about 90%. And I know that there are some people who speak about these elections that are authoritative, like INEC, for example, chairmen of political parties or spokespersons. I think if you're sharing those thoughts, you'll be consistent, because most of those people they would have the authority to speak for their party, but not just some random message from somebody in a village somewhere, and people are sharing it as if it's the law of the country. So that's my take on that.
I see. Charles, what other steps do you think people who are consuming information could take to verify their sources?
We have, there are some certain social media handles that have verified, links and all that. You must be sure where you are feeding from. It's very important to me. I always tell for that, you must be sure where you're feeding from, who sends information to you, where do you get your source from? Because if I have, for instance, the day when they say that the CBN have taken aback on the last information that the president shared during his briefing, they say that the banks can now receive 1,000 naira and 500 naira note that the old notes as legal tender. But then I just had to go to Twitter, and I was there on their verified handle. They refuted that immediately. When he filtered it, I was like, my goodness, because it was already more like jubilation. I don't know where it started from. Unfortunately, most of the media houses too, they play to the gallery because they want to have views, they want to have followers, they want to be the first to break the news. And because of that, they go against the ethics of their jobs also. So for me, I stick to verified handles. I stick to stations and that I'm sure of. So if anything happens, I can specifically say, if I'm going to share information that comes from News Central, I will put it downward on that write-up. That source is News Central TV. So if anything happens, I could know where I got the information from. That's the first thing. Because I've argued that I think we need to censor our social media to an extent. Else, we might lose this nation in the coming days, because almost everybody is now carrying a smartphone, and almost everybody now is not a journalist.
I see. Ade, I'll give you the last word on this one, and quickly let's wrap it up on diaspora. On the diaspora, it's clear that we need to rally the diaspora to better connect with the governance process in Nigeria. What will be your expectations of any incoming government on how it could go about doing that?
I think the first step is to have a diaspora ministry. I know we have NIDCOM, which is Nigeria Diaspora Commission, headed by Abike Dabiri, but unfortunately she's just one person. And what I always say is that if you have not lived in diaspora, you cannot understand the challenges that people in diaspora face. So we need our own ministry, and we need that ministry to be headed by somebody who has lived in diaspora for at least 20 years, and not only lived in diaspora, but they've also been very close to the issues that are happening in Nigeria from a political economic perspective. Because my sense is that the Nigerian government does not understand the political economy of diaspora. You cannot have 70 million citizens outside the country, and there's this high level of disconnectedness. What we also want to see is more cabinet slots for diaspora. So since we cannot come in and run for office, and even those who do, they tell them they're not on ground, what we would like to see is more cabinet positions, not the current tokenism where we have a single minister out of about 36 or 40 in the mold of Godfrey Onyama, who is the Minister for Foreign Affairs. You cannot have only one. If we have 70 million Nigerians in diaspora, that's almost 10% of the Nigerian population. So we want to see that reflected at cabinet level, or even in some key positions like the NDDC, the Nigerian Ports Authority, not to head it, but to see people at board level, because we have the experience and the skill sets and the global contacts to be able to bring Nigeria to a much more safer place. I'm sitting in Cape Town now. I'm the only Nigerian that is based in South Africa that has come for this particular intervention. And so we need more of that to happen. We cannot be a country that is moving on two different paths, one for those inside and one for those outside. So that's my take.
Indeed. Adetunji, Omotola, and Charles Thomas, I'm grateful for your time here on The Square. The issues are ongoing, and I'm sure we'll pick up these topics again some other time.
Thank you.